It was the dog days of summer, the end of August, and we were bored. There was a bunch of us, ranging in age. So it started off with my older brother Adam, he was 10. Next is me, I was 8. And then there's Andrew and Aaron and the baby. And then there was a neighbor friend that was over as well. So we sounded like an army as we run into the house and out of the house and into the house and out of the house in our farmhouse in Canada. It's summer, so it's hot outside, but my mom likes to keep the house, the windows and doors closed so it's cool inside, and it's driving her nuts. Every time we slam open the door and run in, we let the hot air in, and she's there taking care of the baby. Go outside and play, she says. And we do. We come back in about 10 minutes later. What's for lunch? Go outside. Lunch won't be ready for another 20 minutes, she says, and we do. All back out again. Well, 10 minutes later, we're back inside. Mom, I'm hungry. What's for lunch? She says, if you go and wash your hands and face, come and sit down at the table, I'll get lunch started. Now, my mother is the sweetest, kindest lady. She's always got this even temper, and she's just wonderful. But you can hear in her voice that she's a little bit tired of summer, too. So we all go wash our hands and face, and we sit down at the table. My brother starts saying, Mom, I'm bored. It's not my problem. Being bored only happens to boring people, she says. Could we put up the tent? No, she says. It rained last night and the ground's too wet. No tents. Well, then can we go play at the neighbors? You went to the neighbors yesterday and they're not home today, so you can't go again today. Oh, can we go to the beach then? No, I told you already, my bike has a flat tire. I can't bring the baby with me to the beach and you guys can't go by yourselves. He says. We're looking around. What's for lunch anyway, he says. And he looks at me and I look at him. And being the two oldest, we're the initiators of the trouble. And he picks up his fork and his knife and he starts banging them gently on the table. He says, what's for lunch? What's for lunch? What's for lunch? And of course, I pick up my fork and my knife and I start saying, what's for lunch? And it's getting louder and louder and louder. And all the kids are now joining in. What's for lunch? What's for lunch? And my mother, who is busy at the stove getting the leftovers ready from last night, is starting to steam at the ears. She's getting properly fed up. Just stop, she says, and her mouth is that thin line that it gets when she's annoyed. But you know, it's fun to annoy Mom. She never explodes. So, although we put down the knife and fork, we certainly aren't quiet. Mom, he kicked me. Mom, she pulled my hair. What's for lunch? Finally, lunch is ready. And Mom comes over, and as she's dishing out the spaghetti from leftovers from the night before into each of our plates, we start going, Mom, I want a drink. What would you like? I want milk. She goes over to the fridge to get the milk. And as she's coming back, I say, I want apple juice. She pours my brother's milk. She goes back to the fridge to get the apple juice. As she's coming back, my younger brother says, I want orange juice. And so it goes on, back and forth. And there she is, and you can just hear her taking deep breaths. But we know that we're loved. We know that this will be fine. So we keep going. She's there, just as she's about to put a spoonful of spaghetti into her own mouth while wiping the baby's face, my brother starts in at her again. Why can't we put up the tent, he says. I told you, ground's too wet. Oh, well then, I'm sure the neighbors must be home by now. You went there yesterday, you can't wear out your welcome. Oh, well, we could go to the beach, just the older ones. You can't, it's not safe for you guys to go on your own. And there's my brother, and his face, he's getting angrier and angrier. He says, and he looks right at her. And he says, "You never let us do anything. You're the worst mom ever." And that's when my mother breaks. You can see her crumbling. And she looks my brother in the eye, and his defiant, fiery eyes looking back at her. And she picks up his bowl of spaghetti and she dumps it over his head. And at that moment, we all stop. Because we're looking at my calm, collected mother who never, ever gets angry. And my brother, as the spaghetti falls down the side of his face and plops onto his lap, and we think, we have broken her. And she's looking at us, and we're looking at her, and she's got the same look on her face. What have I done? And as my brother stares angry eyes at her, and we stare, wondering whether or not our mom is ever going to be okay again, you can see the thought process of how just hard it is to raise children and always be calm. And you can see that thought process as her arm reaches towards his cup of milk, and he picks it up, and she pours that over his head too.